So I'm joined by Nigel Thrift, who's Vice Chancellor of Warwick University, who's just given the Fulbright lecture to a packed great room. Nigel, it's very difficult because it was a half an hour speech, fascinating speech, but can you just give us the kind of essence of your argument about the ways in which you think the kind of 30 universities, not the top 4, but the next 30, the kind of innovations we need to see if that sector is going to continue to flourish in a more demanding environment?
Yes. The lecture was meant to be a clarion call, basically, saying, right, at this point we've actually got to try and do something, rather than just leaving things to go on, probably into a gradual decline. And to do that, what I'm suggesting is that to begin with, we need to experiment with 4 options. One of those is a straightforward one, which is more specialisation. So that some universities do some things, some do others, but within that as well they cooperate at the same time, so it's specialisation and cooperation both at once. Going on from that, there are other things I think which are really interesting to think about. For example, should we have more mergers? That's difficult unless you think about things like holding company mergers, where actually you have a broad alliance rather than simply trying to collapse cultures onto each other. And then going on from that, what's wrong with foreign takeover? Under certain circumstances, it might be quite the right thing to do if the institutions that's taking over has a lot more money, and therefore can achieve some of the aims that the actual institution will not be able to do without that money. And then I think lastly, what I was really concerned to think about was actually the way in which the sector can cooperate and what levers we actually have to achieve that. And one of the problems I was pointing out is at the moment we can talk all we like, but we don't have many levers.
You got a very good reaction from the audience, but I think if I had to choose one of the most recurrent themes, it was that as well as institutional innovation, we need to think about innovation in terms of the product, and particularly at the kind of undergraduate level. And you heard the usual concerns about kind of dumbing down. Do you think that there is a legitimate argument that as well as thinking about these kind of institutional innovations you're talking about, we need also to think about more varied ways of educating undergraduates in particular?
Well, I'm quite sure that it's time to think about that in a more general way than has been the case so far. There has been some work in the sector on that, and some institutions trying to do these kind of things. But it seems to me that this is also a good time to ask, why is it that we're doing this, and what is it that we're actually trying to achieve? And for me at least, one of the problems that I think the US actually demonstrates about British higher education is that sometimes it's too specialised, too early. And I'm particularly keen on having more generality early in the degree. So we specialise later on, but you don't try and cram everything into 3 years in the way that used to be the case. Instead, you allow room actually for talking about all sorts of things that students ought to know about, but because of specialisation, they never get a chance to learn about.
It's interesting because that's a similar kind of critiques are emerging in terms of the school curriculum, as you know.
Well, the school curriculum has become too crowded.
So, last question really, which is, you said it's a clarion call. You've kind of argued that if the sector can get its act together with a bit of leadership, radicalism, it is possible for those universities to continue to thrive. But if I asked you to put money on it, do you think the sector is going to rise to this challenge?
I would probably say 50-50.
Nigel Thrift, thank you very much.